Hi everybody, Patrick from Patty Melts here, and this week I'd really like to talk to you about something that's kind of difficult to talk about. It's difficult to talk about because it looks different for every single person, and that's creativity. For myself, I know that I have had a kind of a roller coaster throughout my life of creative spurts and then droughts, and that's completely natural. But I'm trying to learn more about the process of being creative, not necessarily as a discipline, but just sort of a state of being. I wish I had a really interesting, juicy project to dive into in this particular video. I don't, but I thought what we could do is talk about what my immediate plans are, some of the short-term plans are, and some of the longer-term plans are here on the channel for some really interesting creative projects. I'm so excited to share them with you, and I'm even more excited to have you along with me on that journey. So back in 2019, the plan was to move into a small space and pay off my student loans. And at the time I was heavily into gaming, and so board gaming. And so all of these games came out of their boxes and got put into Ziplocs and baggies here. And that was great for the time being because it allowed me to really go through my board game collection and see, what I was using and what I wanted to get rid of, and be able to, pare down these giant boxes of these games. And these are the games that I ended up on. But now I'm not in a small space, and then being in these bags actually has the opposite effect, because now I'm not able to really access them or see them. So one of the projects I thought would be really cool is in Fusion to design, some simple boxes of being able to, put these games back into, plastic boxes and be able to have them, back on a shelf. I think that'd be a really fun project, and there are quite a bit of games to, go through here. So in the early 2010s, I found myself in a really weird position. The country was going through a major recession. I had been laid off. I had lost my job. I was looking for new work. That wasn't coming easy. And I ended up taking a job at a retail board game store in a mall in the Phoenix, Arizona area. And through this job, I had met an individual. We had become very fast friends. And he was interested in making a board game, and he was very passionate about it. And then there was this brand new thing that had just come out called Kickstarter. And so we had put our heads together and started a board game company. And I actually was in the tabletop board game world for just shy of a decade, and brought 18 games in that course of time to market that were sold all over the world. It was an absolutely wild carnival ride. So because you all haven't seen this yet, I wanted to take some time and show you sort of the next stage of my space here and the equipment that I'm going to be building out and using to create some of the things. And that's going to be the soldering PCB sort of crafting station here in my space. So this is the new station, and this is going to be what I hope a rather large part of my creativity. Now, I am experienced with soldering when it comes to plumbing, right? I did that in my 20s, and after watching a handful of videos, it's not really all that different. That being said, I did pick up a solder practice kit. I just got this on Amazon. I really would have rather gotten it from another creator's website, but I just didn't find it in time. And so I did pick this up. It looks like it has a speaker in there and a PCB board. And so that ought to be fun. But I have also picked up, a couple kits, with some jumpers, and just kind of went a little, not overboard, but, I just didn't know all exactly what I needed. And so I don't know that this was the best way to have gone about it. I do have a couple projects in mind, right? Like I did pick up at a local store here a really neat I was looking into this, and it looks like it's an emulator, right? It's the PCB board and the buttons. It looks like it has a Raspberry Pi on it. And so I would love to 3D print the casing for this and have that, you know. So we picked a fair bit of stuff up here. I have some ESP32 chips. I'd like to get into Home Assistant, so I picked some of those up. I did pick up a Raspberry Pi 4 Model B because I'd really like to build a what's called a Pi hole. I'd like to build an ad blocker for the streaming services and not have those ads. But, you know, I've got a pretty high-end solder that's, you know, probably pretty nice for my first soldering iron. I do have a ventilation fan. We did pick up a multimeter. Again, I've purchased all this with all of my own money. None of this is sponsored. And then early on, I did print a press, and this is it has a, you know, cheapo soldering iron, and it's to do heat sink inserts, and those are over on the other bench because I had printed. And this is I think it's K2 Kevin on Maker World, and he has just some incredible models. And so I had printed this organization. These are for those inserts. I plan on doing a lot more of these. I plan on putting these up on the wall using Gridfinity and, oh gosh, what's the other system called that goes up, the multi-board up on the wall. So a combination of those two things. So this is going to hold all those inserts. And the cool thing is, you know, it being 3D printed, you can, you know, match it out to be the colors that I want. But that all requires a ton of stuff. So I have gone a little nuts with it. But again, these were funds that I had set aside to do this. So thankfully, I now have this table. We now have the things. We just have to finalize getting it set up and practicing some things and learning it to start to create things. So the things that I want to create out of the gate are going to be that Pi hole as an ad blocker. I also wanted to make a sensor. You can buy these off the shelf for about $100, but I thought it would be a good project. It's for HueForge, and it is a device that measures the transmission distance or the pass-through for light to be able to create HueForges. So I thought that would be a great thing to create on my own because they have made it open source and not necessarily have to buy it. So I'm very excited to delve into this aspect. Life takes a lot of bandwidth, and that doesn't always leave enough at the end to do something. But I think I started looking at it the opposite way, is that I needed to find the time to do creative things, to let that voice speak, because it made life easier. It really did. I am coming out of a time in my life in which I didn't have the resources to do the things that I wanted to do. I didn't have the space to do the things that I wanted to do. I didn't have the calm or the peace in order to do these things. I do now, and you get to be here for that journey, and I'm so excited to have you here. But I also have to be honest, it is extremely overwhelming. I tend to go at 150 miles an hour, and so I have built out this space to a point where I've got a lot of machines that I don't quite know how to use yet, like the laser. I've got the Makera Z1 CNC machine supposedly coming in next month, shipping next month. It's a Kickstarter. I typically don't back expensive things like that on Kickstarter. We'll see if it gets here in time, but I'm excited that you're going to be here to learn that with me. But all that being said, it can be overwhelming. And so for me, sometimes, again, I have to step back, slow it down, and let's focus on one thing or a couple things. And there's no way for me to know what type of creative journey that you are on, But for me, I know that I needed to bring quiet to my life. I needed to bring peace. I had talked in a past video about that task from Warren Buffett's pilot of him making that list of the top 25 things that he wanted to do in this life, and Warren telling him, you need to, at all costs, avoid items 16 through 25 and just focus on the first 5, avoid everything else. And that's what it came down to for me. And this is completely okay, but sometimes that list changes. Those top 5 things change, because I am a big believer in a process I called flow with the go. It's not about go with the flow. It's not about being a passenger in my own life. It's about deciding, hey, I've kind of hit a wall here. Let's stop, step back, look at this process. Where are we wanting to go? And what is another angle that we can get there? I love that part in the movie Big Hero 6, where his brother, gosh, it's such a sad movie. His older brother looks at him and goes, if you have a problem, look at it from a different angle, look at it from a different perspective. And so sometimes when we hit that wall, we hit that obstacle, and we look at it from a different perspective, we're still able to get to where we're going, provided that we are unattached to the way in which we get there. And these are methodologies that I have applied to just about every area of my life, and it has been tremendously freeing because I'm not stuck hitting my head against the wall without a way forward. There are a couple channels that I watch on YouTube that do just an absolutely incredible job of marrying all of these types of mediums together. 3D printing, CNC, cloth making, and they bring all of these elements in, electronics, and that to me those are the projects I want to seek out, that take all these, mediums and combine them together to make this really interesting thing. So right now I am just making things, and that is okay. It's fun. I will get more detailed into it, but the act of making these videos for you all is also tremendously satisfying, because I know that I wouldn't be where I am right now if it weren't for other folks on YouTube that did a phenomenal job of helping me find my way into this incredible hobby. Being new to this 3D printing space and sort of being new to this whole, maker space area, I have found that a lot of people get into it and then feel the need to be productive with it. They feel the need to make things that they can sell. They feel the need to justify it. And I am here to tell you that if something brings you happiness and something brings you peace, that is all the justification you need. Now, if you want to buy a dozen printers and start a print farm, that is absolutely up to you, and that comes with its own challenges. But as someone that loved to play games and ended up making games for a living, be careful when you make that jump and that transition from turning your hobby into your job, because it's fun at first and you can't believe that you get to do this. And then that is kind of on a gradient where it starts becoming more work and less fun. You are worth the investments that you make in yourself to bring yourself happiness and joy and peace. That is all the justification that you need. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey of creating things. I really cannot wait to dig into each of these projects with you, sort of step by step, and all of the different systems, programs, and equipment that we have to bring together to make these things happen. That is beyond exciting. I appreciate you being here so much. Please take some time to create something this week. You are so very worth the investment in yourself.